Welcome to a Leader's Journey podcast. I'm your host, Joel Gunn. LaShaude is back, and this time we are not going to talk about business stuff or some of those other heady things that we've gotten into or the hard things we've gotten into. We're going to talk about fun.
Yeah.
The audience may not know one of the things you're known for outside the business world is being a magician.
Yes.
And so I want to know, what's the magic behind the magic?
Yeah.
Like, it's been around for centuries. People have been fascinated by sleight of hand and magicians and clairvoyance and all that. Like, what pulls us into that?
I think it's the childlike wonder that it brings you back to. Wonder is a very strange emotion. It's not like fear where you go to a horror show or happy when you see a Hallmark movie. Wonder sits somewhere between that. It's this unknown joy we have about what's going on. Like, I don't know what's behind what's going on, but I appreciate it. Anytime a piece of technology works really well, we say it works like magic. Why? Because it's giving us a very pleasurable, desirable result that we just have no idea how it works, but it's intuitive, it feels right, and it makes us happy. And so I think it just brings you back to a place of your childhood. I tell people all the time, the greatest magic trick that I'm able to do is turn a room full of adults into 16-year-olds or 6-year-olds at the same time. Mm-hmm. And everyone who has a lot going on right now, that we're able to share one moment of wonder together, and now everyone's a 6-year-old.
Now that you mention it, if you're really into a magic show, you're not thinking about the report you got to do tomorrow at work.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think there are healthy forms of entertainment where people need to really audit, what do you do to disconnect from your work, and then how does that affect you whenever you come back to work? Because there are some forms of entertainment that are much healthier than others. Like, people say, like, going for a walk and trying to clear your mind actually gives you space to think more clearly about almost all of life, spiritual things, financial things, serious things, and it's just going outside and walking. And so I think there are really healthy forms of entertainment that we need to be more serious about. You know, we got to be more serious about how we recharge.
When did you first know you were interested in magic? When's that first moment that you reflect back?
You show your first magic trick to someone and it puts a smile on their face, and that's it. I'm also a teacher, and so it was the same thing where you teach someone a concept that they thought they couldn't learn, and you see their face light up with that aha moment. And that's when you realize, I would love to give people this level of insight or clarity or revelation for a living. Mm-hmm. And so it's the same thing I do with teaching, whether I'm teaching the Bible or I'm teaching math or even showing magic. There's a point of revelation that happens where someone's face lights up, and it's almost like the connecting of two dots in their own mind that creates this idea of like, wow, I've now seen something that I can't unsee. I get something that I didn't quite know. And so that's when it kind of took over for me.
How old were you?
Probably 15. Yeah. Yeah.
And so you figured out the magic trick and did it for somebody else?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
There you go.
That was when you were hooked.
That's when you're hooked. Yeah. When you're able to share that joy with somebody else, that's what really hooks you into it.
Yeah. There's a little card trick. I think I might have showed it to you once before, but that I learned 30 plus years ago. And it's not even magic. It's just physics.
Yeah.
But it works every time, or 99% of the time. And people are like, oh, how'd that happen? I don't know.
There's lots of magic that's based in mathematics, based in psychology, based in choreography, or just straight up, scientific facts of how things work. There's a magic trick where grains of sand go from gray to pure white in the palm of your hand. And I mean, there's just all sorts of things that are more basic and chemical or mathematical in nature that, again, feel magical when it's presented in the right way.
I think choreography is huge, at least in modern magic. Mm-hmm. I mean, perhaps, I guess it's always been choreographed, right? To some degree, the great magicians going back in time, you probably studied that. I certainly have not.
Well, you probably have, you just don't have a name for it. So most business owners that are watching this podcast are like, well, what does this have to do with business? If someone walks into your establishment, they should have feelings of magic in that the choreography of how they're greeted, the choreography of how they are treated and how they're taken care of. You should be a mind reader in that the questions that they are going to ask, and you've already prepared the solutions and or answers in your presentation, your slide deck, or whatever. And so in many ways, that magic is happening, but it's called a client experience. And if you're doing a good job, hopefully your client walks away and says, you know what, this was a magical experience. Disneyland understands this, but even the person who works in the food industry understands this as well, that it's all about presentation. And even though, for example, chicken could just be pretty much uniform, cooked everywhere. How is it presented at your restaurant that's going to make somebody come back? And what are the beats of entertainment that you've scripted out or choreographed so that they have a magical experience?
Yeah, if you wanted a professional chicken sandwich experience, where are you going to go?
Oh, I don't know.
Chick-fil-A, right?
Chick-fil-A. Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
So it's like I need my sandwich, need to be good, need to be treated well, and I need it pretty quick. And there was jokes during COVID, like we need to have Chick-fil-A manage the world's supply chain. Because you drive by, they're literally cars backed out onto the highway trying to get into a Chick-fil-A, and the way they move them through there, it's just impressive.
There's so much choreography and psychology that goes into that. And so magic is the same thing, except, again, it's for entertainment, where you are thinking of what a person might do or say or how they'll experience it on their side. And whereas the principles of magic are very cold and they're pretty simple and not entertaining in and of themselves, there's a way that you can present it that helps people connect through playfulness.
Would you say the best magicians have to have that ability to choreograph well? Because I mean, like, there's probably some technically proficient magicians, but if they lack that ability to engage an audience, that's not going to get them as far as somebody that's got the personality, maybe even slightly less technical.
Absolutely. And that's with any business, right? You have the nerds that know the technical side of the industry, and then you have the presenters, the salesmen, the marketers, the people you're going to give the pitch decks to, the people who are going to brief higher ups and stakeholders. And those are the people who understand how presentation works, and numbers have to be put in some form of motion or context or color to them that makes them attractive, because in and of itself, the person who created the data for the slide deck is probably not the same person who might be presenting it, or they need some sort of coaching to make sure that they do it right. And same thing with magicians. We sit and we practice for hours on certain sleights and moves and invisible techniques that we invest in. But in and of itself, that stuff is not magical or entertaining. It's just fooling, right? And I tell everyone all the time, if you want to be a great magician and fool people, just say you're going to show up for a gig and don't show up. You fooled them, but you haven't entertained them. You did a vanishing act with someone's paycheck, right? But entertainment is something different, where I'm able to take these techniques and leverage them in a way where you're entertained by it. And it's the same thing in business, to where maybe the underlying formulas you have for success or what sets your company apart by itself is not going to be enough. You have to make sure it's wrapped in a customer experience that's magical. So again, there's choreography, there's presentation, there's the way you structure pricing, branding, all that sort of stuff goes into how you're wrapping the techniques that you're using in something that makes it easy to consume, pleasurable, and all around entertaining.
What's the hardest part of magic?
The hardest part of magic, man, that's a good one. For me, the hardest part of magic is separating or figuring out how the art plays with the business side of it. Because as an artist, there are things you want to do, and then there's the commercial side of magic that is what services people. And so trying to draw the line between, hey, what do I want to do as an art form versus what I want to do that serves my community well, and that is more commercial if you're going to do it professionally. And so that's why I'm wrestling with right now, being able to split the difference between being a professional and being an amateur. An amateur is something that you do for the love of it, me and more. Like, it's just, I'm an amateur. I do it for the love of magic. I indulge in learning something or doing something, but then there has to be a side of it where I'm actually serving my community and loving people well with this gift that I have. And so I have to draw a line and separate, okay, here's the things I do as an amateur, here's the things I do as a professional that are more commercial. And by commercial, I simply mean it can sell well at a high frequency, and I can show up and perform it. Yeah.
How long have you been practicing magic?
Ooh,
like
man,
like
say
hardcore, like you're into it?
This is one of those hobbies that just sticks with you over time. So I put 3 years in, and I put it away for 2 years because I didn't know what to do with it. And then I put 3 years into it, and then I put it away because it was just consuming too much of my free time. And then honestly, I prayed about whether or not to re-engage in the hobby or just throw everything away. And I felt like God was telling me, you know what, go out and serve the community with this. And then it's a fruitful hobby where you're not just sitting at home learning and accumulating all this knowledge, but you're actually serving other people. And then so I started performing at nonprofit organizations, at galas. I performed for Alliance for Orphans. I performed for Adult and Teen Challenge, which is a 12-month faith-based addiction recovery program. And so I just love serving people and giving them nice, clean entertainment that can help kind of support a larger mission that might be more serious in nature, or an event that might be more technical or data-driven, and just giving that event or that space another dimension of
something
magical. There you go. Yeah.
Well, I've been fortunate to see you in several different settings. And you seem like you've really taken this, would you call it a mandate to give back to the community? Is that too strong of a word?
No, I don't think it's too strong of a word.
Seems like you've taken this mandate quite to heart. I mean, like, it's fun to watch you in the community giving back. And so it's beyond hobby level for you. When you say you're wrestling with this idea of commercial, like, are you talking like headline in Vegas kind of commercial, or like
just any form of commerce to where someone approaches me and says, can you show up and do this job at this time consistently? And the answer is yes, that I'm not going to take unnecessary risk with my performances. It will be entertaining. As an amateur, I experiment, but with you, I'm not going to experiment on your event and with your time and with your dime. What you're going to get is going to be amazing, entertaining. It's going to be well fleshed out.
And so you've got the choreography, you've got the technical kinks worked out. Like, you feel like I can guarantee this for this, and under these parameters.
Yes,
I can guarantee this.
Yeah, I've done the research. I've already worked out this trick in other places. I've already worked out this routine in other places. So what I'm giving you is not something I just came up with last night, but it's something that I've actually worked on. So there's actually a decent amount of research and that goes into what effects to perform and what effects not to perform. Like, did you know people are more likely to remember a card trick if it involves another object, such as a knife or fire or card in lemon or card through glass, card on ceiling, card through window, card in mouth? Like, it's if it's tagged with something else, people are more likely to remember it. And so I think about those things whenever I'm picking up new effects. And what do I bring to your party? I want something your friends are going to talk about and remember, that after a long night of having fun, they remember that guy put a card through my window. And they're able to talk about that. And it was your party that brought them together to have that connection through playfulness. So, yeah, that's the difference between what I call amateur and what's more professional and commercial. There are things that I do that there are tricks I do that I don't personally enjoy the most, but people enjoy them the most. And I do it.
You're there to serve. So
people ask me, what's your favorite magic trick? And I say, the one that puts a smile on your face. That magic only exists in your mind. It's the theater. You can experience it as magic. I experience it as a performance. You're going to experience it as magic. And so I have to just give you the ingredients to therefore create this moment.
We were talking just before the show about this couple you saw perform a trick.
Yeah.
My brother and I are amateurs at the trick.
Yes.
They were obviously way beyond.
But with you and your brother, that's perfect. I mean, here's the cool thing. The weird thing about magic is that since the method is invisible, there's really nothing that separates a really, really great magician from just a good magician. Because if you do your job right and your people are entertained, there's who knows how long each method takes or how much you invested in each method. If the effect works, and it's almost like beauty is in the eyes of the beholder. If they have beholden something that's magical, who's to say that you're not the greatest magician they've ever met,
Yeah. But as we were talking about that couple that you saw, you made a statement about, we always assume that if we look back in history and, well, they must have been idiots to fall for that, or they just were uneducated to fall for that. But what's your experience been in 2024 and 2025?
I've done magic tricks for people who in 2024 and 2025 will swear it's real magic or voodoo, and I have to be like, hey, it's not that. It's not that. These are just cheap tricks. It's $20. You can learn them online, but the presentation is just so compelling that a rational human, no matter what era you're born in, might say that this is truly magical, that all the parameters were set properly and the test conditions were proper such that this was real magic. And so, there's a little bit of chronological snobbery is what I call it, where people think just because I'm born in 2020, whatever, I live in 2025, I'd never fall for the type of routines that people fell for in the 1800s. And that's just simply not true. You've not been in that environment to actually experience it for yourself, such that your senses would betray you. And then you too would have to really call into question what your eyes are seeing or what your ears are hearing.
I think there's a couple of things at play, though. We tend to be more skeptical of spiritual things, at least in the Western culture, right? So I think we've talked about him before personally, if not on the podcast. I've got a friend from one of the 10th poorest countries in Africa, and he said, you Americans make fun of the spiritual world. From my part of Africa, we know it's real. Like, he's seen things manifest and rocks levitate and, so on. So he's like, I have no doubt people from my part of the world have no doubt that the spirit realm's real. In America, you make fun of it with Halloween and all these other things. He goes, and y'all play it down as just this, thing for children. And so I think in the 1800s, there may have been overall a higher appreciation for that there is a spirit realm. And so perhaps they were more, because of that, they were more alert to trying to associate magic with voodoo or whatever. But you're right. Even in 2024, 2025, I've been in the room with you on a few occasions. I was certainly fascinated, but there was other people in the room who were like, oh my goodness, like, is he some sort of spirit incarnated?
Yeah.
And but just because of the illusion, was so compelling.
Yeah. And I love to have that conversation with people because especially maybe a lot of Christians, they're anti-cards. They associate it with gambling and they associate it with just a negative thing, right? And I like to tell people that, yes, I'm going to fool you, but I'm going to fool you like a comedian will fool you, right? Like they're going to withhold a piece of information that's critical to the story until the punchline at the end, and they were one ahead the whole time, and then they hit you with the punchline that's the joke. And magicians are the same way. All of magic is just a one ahead. I'm one ahead on something, and then I reveal it to you at the most entertaining time. That's all it is. So whether it's a card that's been in my hand the whole time, then I reveal it to you at the most entertaining moment. That's what it is. And then also as it relates to things of a spiritual nature, where you draw your power from or where you are saying is your source of power, I think that's more important. And so many people source their power just from a textbook, on a kid's magic textbook. That's my source of knowledge or power. It's nothing more than that. And then there are other people who make truth claims of divination that are sourcing power from more spiritual places. I think that's a separate conversation needs to be had from the person who's able to guess your birthday, or yeah. So what's harder,
close-up magic or the other?
When you're pushing the boundaries of your industry, you'll find the pain points in both.
How about for you personally?
For me personally,
what do you feel like is the hardest for you to conceal the trick? Is it close-up magic, or are people actually suckered easier? Maybe suckered's the wrong word, but like, what do they believe is more magical? That close-up. For me, I love your close-up magic.
Yeah,
like it's. I would say flawless. I'm sure I could find an error somewhere, but it's really good.
Yeah.
And you got a fun personality to go with it. So the presentation draws you in. And so I've always thought from the outside looking in that close-up magic would be harder than being on the 17th row of an auditorium.
Yeah. Well, most people's attention is about the size of a quarter, and they are rapidly placing it around your body as they see fit, and you are able to guide them to where you should tell them relevant pieces of information are. So, for example, right here in the palm of my hand is nothing, but the fact you're looking at nothing now. So now the quarter of your attention is, here in the palm of my hand, I can do anything I want in this other area. And so close-up magic, it seems more difficult because people think of it as misdirection, but it's more so directing someone's attention on where they ought to be appreciating and where they ought to be paying attention, which, again, there's lots of business parallels there where you're hoping to direct people on what to appreciate about your business or your organization. There's always an employees only place where there's nothing of appreciation there. It's just an employees only room, but everything else over here, it's fun and uplifting. And so you're directing people on how to have fun and engage in your business or in your organization. Same thing with close-up magic, where I'm directing your attention to the most entertaining, funny things that are relevant right now. And I might have to slip a card into your front jacket pocket while you're laughing at this thing over here.
Yeah.
So,
well, you got a deck of cards sitting there on the table the whole episode.
Yeah.
Is there a reason that deck of cards is laying on the table?
Sure. Yeah. So I thought it might be nice for your spectators to be able to see something we're talking about magic this whole time. They can see something magical.
Yeah, let's do it.
You want to try something really quickly?
Let's try
for the time we have left? All right, here we
Let's
go.
do it.
Let me see. This trick is very simple. It just uses your imagination. Do you have a good imagination?
Sometimes.
Sometimes. All right. We're going to test the boundaries of your imagination now. We're going to need I might need your help with this. And I know you've actually seen me do this at one of your parties, but you didn't get a chance to experience it for yourself, did you?
Nuh-uh.
All right, you're going to experience it for yourself. I want your help. Can you help me count this? We're just going to go 1, yep, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Here, can you do the last few? Just turn them over.
10.
That's perfect. And then just hold them against your chest like this. Yeah. Can we see that on the camera? Yeah. Okay. Let's try this. I'm gonna ask you to say stop anywhere you like.
Stop.
Right there.
Mm-hmm.
You can change your mind if you want to.
No, that's good enough.
Are you sure?
Yep.
All right. Here, we're not going to use the card I can see. We're going to use the card right underneath it, and that card is a
3 of clubs.
3. Okay. Here we go. 3 cards. 1, 2, 3. 3 cards from my imagination go into the palm of your hand right there.
Okay.
Yeah. And you
So
might
I had 10.
You had 10.
And you're saying I'm going to have 13.
And I'm saying, yeah, we're going to have 13.
All right.
You ready? So here, I want you to count them out right here on the table where we can see. Just kind of go 1,
Okay.
2, 3, 4. Just kind of, yeah, perfect. Right there.
1, 2, 3, 4, 6, 8, 9,
10. Pause right there for dramatic effect. You chose the number 3 and we did like that.
Yeah.
And so now you should have how many? Go 11, 12, 13?
13.
No way. There you go. Pretty interesting, right?
That's very good.
Yeah. And so that's
I
kind
didn't
of,
feel them transfer, though.
you want to feel them transfer?
Well, it'd be nice.
It'd be nice?
Yeah.
Let's try it again.
All right, let's do it.
Here, hold them to your
Here.
chest. Yeah, hold it nice and tight. You ready?
Okay.
We probably need another number. So here, just say stop anywhere you want to.
Right there.
Right there? You sure? We can change it if you want.
Clubs.
No, well, I've already seen this card. You might think I'm forcing it.
That's true.
Here, let's use the card right underneath it, though. Maybe a larger number, hopefully.
4.
4?
Okay.
All right, here we go. You ready?
Yeah.
Now, you were holding 10 cards, and they felt like 13.
Well, count it out to 13.
Count out to
I
13.
didn't feel it.
Okay, you didn't feel it? All right, I want you to feel those cards right now. There's 14, 15, 16, and 17. Now, be honest. No, but be honest. Can you feel, when you feel those cards, don't count them. Just
they
in
feel
your,
thicker.
they do feel thicker,
Yeah,
right?
but I didn't feel anything
But you didn't-
moving.
Here, just count them out on the table. Don't look at them. Just count them one at a time. 1, 2. Don't look at them. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. Stop right here. Do you feel 4 more cards?
I feel 4 more
You
cards.
4 more cards. That would make it 17.
That's 17.
From your imagination into reality, right there.
I told you I had a good imagination.
And I could see, yeah. And honestly, don't get me started on imagination, but I know you have a good imagination because you're a business owner, and most of business ownership is just imagining things and bringing them into fruition. Even as I know you're a faith leader as well, and you remember in Genesis 6 that God said that the imagination of man was wicked always, and that was one of the issues that he had. And why is that a big issue? It's because he gave humans the ability to imagine something and bring it into creation.
Yeah, and interesting point there. Imagine good or evil.
and you can bring it into creation. Yeah. And as a business owner, you imagined this podcast. You imagined what life might be like even in the building that we're in right now. You've imagined what your family could look like if you were faithful to God and saying yes. You've made all sorts of sacrifices just based off your wild, God-inspired imagination. And now we are sitting in what was in your imagination.
Interesting.
You were sitting in something that was just
There's
in your mind.
There's a twilight moment, right?
I know. You closed your eyes and imagined, because you couldn't see it, right? But you closed your eyes, you imagined what it could look like, just like you had your eyes closed there, and you imagined what those last 4 cars might look like. And they were obviously there, right, for the magic trick. But how much more cooler when you can actually do that for your clients, and they could experience a podcast that you imagined how it might feel for them to have the convenience of getting good information when they needed it in a timely way. You literally pray and imagine what your client experience might feel like, and you would hope it would be magical in the sense that they get what they need in a way that is beautiful and easy, and it's exactly what they need, and it's entertaining in a sense, right? But it's the same thing that we do when we choreograph magic tricks, is that we sit down and we think, what would the client experience be like? How can it be magical? And of course, turning 10 cards into 13, into 17 is fun. But again, I think what business leaders do is even more magical.
That's very cool. Thanks, LaShaude. Any final thoughts as we wrap up?
Any final thoughts?
Those were some pretty powerful ones right there.
Yeah, I would just say as a business owner, hopefully you are creating a magical experience for your clients, that they are able to not distinguish between you as a mind reader and you just knowing how to solve their problems, and that you would choreograph their experience very well, so that they're not just experiencing the product that you have or the service that you have to offer, but it's presented in a way where they're experiencing magic from beginning to end.
That's great. Thanks, LaShaude.
My pleasure.
And what do I do with the 17 cards?
I don't know.
Do they go back in the deck? Or?
Yeah, I think they'll just magically go home with me when I pick them up.
Thanks, brother.
Thank you.
Thanks for joining us for this episode of A Leader's Journey podcast. If you enjoyed it, give us a thumbs up and remember to subscribe to our channel.